And then I'm going to go ahead and do screen share. You know what I don't understand is when it does this desktop. There we go. Y'all should be able to see my PowerPoint now.
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. I'm gonna make it. But see, I hate when it does that.
I'm sorry to disturb you at 12 something in the morning. That's when I sent in my
Oh, and I was still awake. Like I told y'all, a lot of times my sleep schedule, I don't. If I'm asleep, I'm never gonna hear it. If I'm awake, I'm so confused.
When I saw the response, I was like, oh my god, I woke her up. I
Oh
didn't mean
no,
to.
no. That no, not at all. You absolutely did not wake me up. I promise you, I was still awake. I may not be able to make this full screen. It does. We don't know why. We've never figured it out. It has something to do with transition. And normally I can go here and I can adjust the duration of how fast it does. This one is not allowing me. And when I try to make it full screen, see how it flips through automatically.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not being able to. Hopefully y'all can still see it well enough. This is pretty large print. So we're going to go ahead and start medical law and ethics. And I'm going to try to get through this as quick and painlessly as possible. There's a lot of important things that we need to know as medical assistants about medical law. Let's first start off today. Let's take a look at what our SurveyMonkey was. So I know
Classification of the law. The four.
4 branches of law.
Yeah.
So
Criminal, civil, and international and military.
that's it. Those are the 4 branches. So if you haven't had your SurveyMonkey yet, there you go. There's your answers. So, and we'll talk about those 4 branches, and we'll briefly kind of get an overview of law, and but mainly focus in what it means as regards to us as medical assistants. Okay. Same thing as always. You're going to want to define the terms and be able to recognize the terms. Now, these are all, for the most part, kind of new for most of us, because unless we've been studying law, they're not something you're familiar with. You need to be able to understand the difference between criminal law and civil law. And then there's something we're going to talk about that's going to be mentioned, and you will see in like a national exam, are called the 4 Ds of negligence. And then the importance of, first the understanding of what abandonment is, and then the importance of making sure we never abandon a patient. There's a video. It is a very boring video. I am going to post it to Teams, but I do suggest that y'all watch it. It goes over, and it's one of them ones that they want you to watch. All right, so here's your SurveyMonkey question for the day. The 4 branches: criminal, civil, international, and military. So those are the 4 main branches that we're going to be talking about. There are other subclassifications of law, but we're going to stick to this. All right, so criminal law is basically when laws, and this is very simple, you could put this into your own words any way you want, but laws that are made to protect the public from harmful acts of others. So, um, we don't have people just running around, shooting people or breaking into their businesses or homes and stealing things, because it's a law that if you commit a crime like that, it is a criminal crime, and you could place, there's two types of category, a felony or a misdemeanor, okay? And these are the two charges that can be brought against you. Now, the felony itself is obviously a more steeper and severe punishment than a misdemeanor, okay? A misdemeanor can be something like a traffic ticket, okay? Or maybe you were having a block party and you were the host and everybody was too rowdy and they gave you a disturbing the peace. That would be a misdemeanor. A felony is going to be something where you assault someone or steal something of someone's or cause property damage, like you burnt somebody's house down or something major. Okay, these would be the examples, and there's tons of examples that they give you here. Felony usually results in state or federal prison. Felonies can result in a death sentence. Okay, so you need to make sure you understand the severity. It's not like you get a felony and you're just going to be locked up in your little city jail for, the time. No, they're going to send you to the state or federal prison, and it's a lot different of a scenario and situation. And there are people who are put to death. There's the death penalty in every state, and it's still an active thing. Examples for this would be murder, rape, robbery, and believe it or not, practicing medicine without a license. All of these things can get you a sentence of a felony charges. So we'd want to avoid anything like this, okay? Well, obviously, and most of us aren't going to do any of these because we talk about, morals and making good and bad decisions, and this would definitely fall under one of the bad decisions. Now, criminal law, as far as a misdemeanor, this can be a less serious offense. Now, some misdemeanors can get you put into jail for up to a year. But most of the time with misdemeanors, you might serve like a couple of days in jail, like at a city level, but most of the time it's just tickets and warnings and fines and fees, stuff like that, okay? And I'm sure everybody has had at least one ticket in their life, and if you haven't, I am so proud of you. That's excellent. Now let's see here. When we talk about medicine, now a physician has a license. Now this license can be revoked. That means that it can be taken away from the physician for any convicted crime. So if that's sexual misconduct, murder, violating the DEA and narcotic laws, Any of the other things that could get you put charged with a felony, this could also have your license revoked. Okay, that goes for you as an MA as well. When we talk about doctors, practicing medicine is defined as diagnosing and prescribing treatment. So if you have if you're an MA and you're diagnosing people and telling them a plan of treatment and giving them medications and stuff like that, that is a felony. That is against the law. And there's been several examples of people. There was a person who wasn't one of my students, but he went through the MA program at my old school, and he started working for I guess anesthetician, or people where they go get Botoxes and stuff like that. And he started taking supplies home that were expired or this or that, and started doing that from his home. And yeah, he got caught and busted, and it was not a pretty thing. It was all over the news, and he ended up going to jail. So, because that is practicing medicine without a license. So that's a no-no. Now, criminal law, as far as when we're talking about medical assistants, a medical assistant is there to assist the physician, does not diagnose, and does not treat the patient. Okay? Now, that's a fine line, because sometimes we treat the patient by giving them an injection or by giving them medication, but we're doing so because we were told to by the physician. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Medical assistants who attempt to diagnose or treat could be prosecuted for practicing medicine without a license, which is a felony, which will get you put in prison. Now, civil law is different. Civil law, basically explained, is things when we think about relationships between two people, or an individual and the government, or something like that. And civil law has its sub-classifications as well. And you're going to want to write these down, because most of us know the, criminal, misdemeanor, and felony. We've heard those. We've watched enough Judge Judy. Now, civil law, and what is that? What was that? What's that legal show? Law and Order or whatever. So civil law, though, is different, and there might be some subcategories that you're not familiar with. Okay, there's the first one, which is tort law. It falls under civil. Contract law is also civil. Administrative. And then, I thought there was one more, but I guess not.
Tithe. Is it tithe? No, no. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I thought there was one more, but maybe it comes up later. Okay, sorry.
Administrative, tort.
Okay, so there's tort law, contract law, and administrative law. So let's go ahead and go over what each of these mean, because you do need to know these. Okay, so tort law falls under the civil, and tort means when you cause something that results in harm to another. The perfect example of this that you can give an example for would be a car wreck. Okay, that's, you're driving your car, you cause a car accident, and somebody's injured. Now, could that also lead to criminal charges? Say if you were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs or something like that. Yes, absolutely. It could end up in both. But if you're just driving to work, no type of alcohol or drugs or substances or anything like that, and you swerve to miss a squirrel and end up hitting somebody's car, that would be tort law, right? Contract law. A contract is when two people, or sometimes more, enter into an agreement. Contract law. And contract law means that you and the person that you entered into agreement, or people that you enter an agreement with, somebody breaks their end of the deal, and then that falls into the civil law. Okay. And then the last one for civil is administrative. Now this one covers a lot of categories. This is dealing with regulations set by government. So when we think of civil law as when you're dealing with your job or your work or rights, maybe you're in a wheelchair and the city is supposed to have ramps up to get into businesses and they don't. That would be civil administrative law. If your boss fires you for something that's not a fireable offense, this would go under administrative law, and it's under the civil branch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, healthcare employees most frequently involved in cases of civil law and what we call their tort and contract. And we're gonna talk about tort. We know contract is entering into an agreement. So let me give you an example of that, how it fits as an MA. So when your patient comes in, and you know how they make them sign that paperwork?
Mm-hmm.
That's a contract. And one of the things by them signing that paperwork is also a contract with you that you're going to withhold and you're going to live up to the role that is set nationally that an MA is supposed to do. So if an MA gives an injection and they're supposed to stay with that patient for at least, depending on the company and the thing, 15 to 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yes, and monitor that patient. If you didn't do that, that could be a breach of contract. Okay? And then we'll get into the rest of how that fits. But just understand, we are under a contract every time our patient signs in. Tort law. Now, tort law is, how do I explain? It's complex, okay? Tort law is basically when there is a wrongful act resulting in harm committed by one person against another person or their property. Okay? So in medicine, to meet the definition of tort, there must be damage or injury to the patient, it was caused by the physician or an employee of the physician. All right. And we're going to learn that this falls under something we call medical malpractice and so forth. And I'll tell you right now, it's very hard to win a medical malpractice suit.
As an MA working in a doctor's office, are we required to have our own malpractice insurance, or
No.
we're covered under theirs?
You are covered under theirs.
Okay.
And that's, when I was telling you about why some MAs start off real low salary, and
Yeah.
it's just because the doctors want to see if this person's really going to stick around and going to be good for the company. Because not only does it cost about $1,500 to $2,000 just to hire someone, and then that's not including adding them under your insurance.
Okay.
So it's usually that's why a lot of doctors will start you off a little bit lower initially, just to see if you're gonna make it in the.
Okay.
Yeah.
In our case, they put us on probation for the first 3 months.
Correct. A lot of times they will do that, and that is basically a probation is where you entered into a contract saying, I'm going to follow these rules and I'm going to do this, and knowing that if I'm terminated, it does not result in unemployment because you're under probation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's a lot of jobs do that as well. Okay, now here's where things get complicated. I want you to take a second and I want you to write down this. Tort has subcategories. This whole entire chapter is about categories, broken into categories, broken into more categories, broken into more categories. Okay? So tort law, the first one we're going to talk about tort is intentional torts. So write that down, and then it is broken down into assault, battery, false imprisonment, defamation of character, fraud, and invasion of privacy. So take a moment real fast and write those down. And I have known somebody during my medical years who has been brought to legal charges for each of these. Not all one person, but believe it or not, lawsuits do occur a lot more than you would realize. Now, did most of those end in the medical person's favor? Yeah, it did. As a paramedic, we are when I was a paramedic, we were very much gone after when something went wrong, because we were the first people to pick up that family member or the loved one. So a lot of times the grief and anger and stuff like that when something went wrong was tried to place blame on the paramedic. But fortunately, there are a lot of laws that are helped set up to protect us, and there's also like for me myself, I was given amazing and instruction, and was taught the proper ways to do things and handle that kind of stuff. Baby, scoot that chair up so the computer don't slide off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move screens now. I'm going to add this video to Teams, and I want you to watch it. And it kind of gives a breakdown, okay, of the different explanation, it breaks these down that we just spoke about. All right, so one of the things, and this video explains, is an example of assault. But I'm gonna get there, okay? Assault is when you threaten that you're going to harm someone, okay? Threatening. Battery is when you actually do injure someone. Okay? Now, these two are often go hand in hand, because I like to think of this as, how many people do you know just walk up to somebody randomly? Now, it does happen, and just punches someone without saying a word. That would be just battery. Now, assault is when that person's usually talking smack and making threats and being intimidating. That's what leads to the confrontation, where battery usually happens. Okay? Assault is a very broad term. I will give you a personal experience. I do not have the world's cleanest mouth. And when I was probably in my early 20s, I went into a convenience store, and the lady that worked in there, the first thing I had on a shirt that I guess could have been it's a t-shirt that could have been deemed inappropriate, and it had a curse word on it. And she gave me a look when I walked in to the convenience store. I was on my cell phone. I was having a conversation to someone on my phone, and we both had said some back and forth. We were playing, we were joking. It was a good friend of mine, but we were using explicit words. And she tells me, I was getting a drink, and she tells me from across the convenience store, "I'm going to need you to not speak like that in here." Well, my response to her is, I'm 20 and I was like,
Feisty.
Yeah. And I turned around and I told her I'm going to need her to mind her blanking business. And so she was just very upset. And I pay for my gas, I got my drink, and I'm ready to check out. And she mentions something about that's not how you behave in public, and anyway, then she tried to religiously chastise me.
Oh.
And so
one of those, huh?
Yeah. And so I proceeded to walk out of the store, and as I walked out of the store, I gave her a certain finger and told her to have a nice day in a certain way. So.
Oh wow, my teacher is a nice teacher.
Hey. So I like I said, I was very young at the time, and didn't realize. Now, about 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail saying that I needed to be in court on this day.
Wow.
This woman had wrote my license plates down and filed assault charges against me, and for verbal abuse and assault. And if you think that talking smack like to someone can't get you in trouble, it can. Now, the good news was my neighbor that I lived next to was an attorney, and she laughed about the whole matter, and she ended up going to court with me, and we had what with the record. I basically I had to promise not to curse in public and do that again for at least a year, and then it would leave my record. It was called expunged, and it was removed from my record. So there's no traces of that. That's just me being open with y'all and explaining to you.
Yeah.
Just something as simple as that can get you in trouble. And we don't think about the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of social media things that you see every day of people saying way worse than what I said and did to her. But technically, all of those things could fall under assault. And now we have rules that protect us as far as cyber. And, there's laws keeping you from bullying people and threatening people online. And so things have become even more advanced. So I always tell my students, be very careful what you put on a social media or what you send via text, because it is evidence. Because if you text somebody, I'll give you a great example. I had a girl in my class in Houston who had every reason to be upset. Her child's father was with another woman, and he got them on the weekend, and this other woman, baby come home with a mark on their arm. She texted
she would have been in big trouble.
Well, she texted the woman and told her that it threatened her. Told her if I ever see another mark on my child, I'll be marking all over your face. And but in a whole bunch of other explicit terms. This led to her getting turned around, even though she had, and to me, in my opinion, she had every right to be upset. But this other woman's, I guess, apparently her brother was a lawyer. So you never know. Please be careful what you write. And it was, what got her? The fact that it was put in a text message. If she would have said that to her over the phone, and unless it was recorded, she'd have never got her. But the words written are what they call.
Yeah, she has proof.
She has proof. She has damning. It's called damning evidence. Like, you're not getting away. Battery is when you actually harm someone. It also could be touching someone without someone's consent. So did you know that by even pushing someone, that's considered battery? So you have to be very careful in what you do. This is why usually if you get charged with assault, you're going to have battery, besides my case. And usually if you have battery, you're going to have assault. Unless you're that person that just walks up on the street, you see a video, and they just punch somebody randomly and walk off. And I just never understood that. But usually these go hand in hand. Okay, do we have any questions before I move on? It's really important that you understand the differences between these two.
No, so far I don't have any, but I don't know if anybody else have.
Anybody else? Nobody ever talks.
I'm the only one that talks. I feel bad.
No, I feel very fortunate. I like to have interaction. This is good. It makes me think I'm actually doing something. Now let's go back and let's answer this. Let's answer, what is an example of assault in a medical office? So,
threatening to harm a patient or perform a procedure in which the patient does not consent.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. You know, the patient says, you know, they refuse an injection. It's like, you're getting this injection if I got to hold you down. That's, you assaulted them. So
yeah, don't touch me. I don't want you to take my blood pressure.
Yeah.
Get out of my house.
Yes. And then if you continued and you did it, that would be battery.
Some of them tell you, if you touch me, I'm going to sue you.
Yes, that's right. And so, and sometimes they actually can have those charges brought against you. So you have to think about what you're doing. Now, false imprisonment. This is exactly like you were saying. So you have a patient who is in the room and they say that, you know, they'd like to leave and that they're going to leave, and you're like, no, you need to stay here. And they want to, but they tell you, no, I'm ready to go. And maybe you, I don't want this injection, or I don't want this procedure. And maybe you hold them down and help hold them down and do the injection, or you lock them in a room, or you force them to stay somewhere. That's false imprisonment. As a paramedic, I can tell you this was a very difficult thing, because there were times I had to tie people up because for my safety and their own safety.
But those are for people who you think that are danger to themselves, right?
Yes, but if they're still telling me no.
Yeah.
It was so, we had a rule that anytime we had to use restraints, we called what's called medical directive, and told our medical director, I need to use restraints because, and then I got a verbal from them.
Yeah.
And which usually gave us a complete clear. So I was the type of medic that always, unless it was something that was, life or situation. Now, with your patients, unfortunately, this is a terrible way to think, but children are falsely imprisoned every single day at the doctor's office, because
they said no
they are going to tell you, no, stop, don't. But their mom and dad's holding them. Their mom and dad is telling you, give the kid the medication, and they're giving you consent. So, and you may have to imprison or hold down that child to get the injection. So, but the difference is, take it and change the age. If you did that to somebody who was not a minor, Okay, that's false imprisonment. All right. So are there times that you, okay, as a medical assistant, I always talk about, I've had a lot of students, guys. One of them had a patient who came in and she was off all of her meds. And she was at her PCP, but she was a psych patient with another doctor. And she actually came in, she was hearing voices, she was swatting at things that weren't there, and she had drove there. And my student, was like trying to be as politically and correct and everything as possible, but then this lady wanted to leave, and she's like, "Ma'am, I'm gonna want to just wait in here for me for just a few minutes. Just the doctor had something really important to tell you." And she kind of, falsified, trying to get this woman to be there because it wasn't safe for her to go back out on the street and drive. Now she tried to leave the room and she pulled the door closed and was holding the door and hollered for the doctor. And the woman was like, "Let me out, let me out." That technically could have been false imprisonment, but nothing was ever brought of it because the woman was ended up being institutionalized, taken in psych emergency kind of thing. So you have to think about your actions before you do them. All right. And you have to kind of outweigh the benefit. Would I have done exactly what she did as well? Absolutely. Because that woman, like I said, she drove to the office and there she is talking to things that don't exist, swatting at things in the air. She was literally, off her rocker. So definitely not safe to be driving. And this is giving you the example. And it also is a tort. It falls under that class. False imprisonment is violation of the person's liberty of another person through unlawful restraint. So basically keeping somebody somewhere when they're telling you, "Let me go." Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now the next one, I can guarantee you almost every single person has done. Defamation of character. This
Damage caused to personal reputation through spoken written words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because if you type anything on a line, or you've written back in high school or junior high a dirty note, or sent a text message about somebody that was mean and maybe not true, so and so is a blankety blank,
Yeah.
and it's not true, that's defamation of character. If you are online and you type up, just got back from the Dr. Scalf's, and she had the dirtiest, nastiest medical office I've ever seen, and the whole place, stunk, and everybody there was disgusting and rude. And come to find out, somebody went in the same day, checked it out, and the place was actually very clean, and everything was in order. It was how they should be. That would be defamation of character. Okay? You can't say something about someone that is untrue. Now, that is a very fine line, because there are people that you personally might have witnessed. Let's say a friend steals something, and so you can say she's a thief. But you're making that accusation, but it's, 6 months down the road. Where is your proof? So she could come back and say, I lost my job because she lied, even though you know that that person had committed the crime and she was a
But
thief.
you don't have no proof.
You have no proof. You gotta have the proof, right? And that's why I said, be careful what you write and type. I cannot express that to you enough. It is very important. And defamation, I just gave you one. If you was to leave a doctor's office and say things about the office that just weren't true, and because maybe, and so many, if you go through doctors, I always check my doctors out online before I go to them. And you have to, you can kind of spot the people who are just angry because they didn't get the pain medicine they wanted, or they didn't get the, you know, whatever that they were seeking. And they're the ones that usually write these horrible, oh, the doctor, blah, blah, with this and that. But when, that would be defamation of character. If you, go to the doctor because you're addicted to Vicodin, and the doctor sees, this looks kind of fishy, doesn't write you your Vicodin, but then you go on Yelp or, some kind of medical review online and say, this doctor was incompetent and, you know,
Just because you
blah,
didn't get
blah,
what you
blah,
wanted.
just because you didn't get what you want, that's defamation. Okay? All right. And then another one that falls still under tort is fraud. And fraud is basically when you deceitful, when you are to plan or act in a deceitful manner. And this is when you tell somebody, if I was a doctor, I have a therapy, and you come to my clinic, I give you this IV therapy, and it's automatically within a few days going to make you look 15 years younger.
Oh.
And how many people fall for that kind of stuff all the time?
A lot.
A lot. But that is actually deceitful, because a lot of times what they found out that a lot of the products were the like creams and stuff like this. All it was a constricting agent, and it was a temporary, and it is deceitful. It is not something. There's a lot of things in medicine that are very deceitful. That's why I always tell everybody, there is no, as of right now, there is nothing that you can buy on the market that's going to make you lose weight. Nothing. So not any kind of seeds, not any type of certain foods, anything like that. The only way you're going to lose weight is by diet and exercise. Period.
Yep.
And people are like, they don't want to hear that though. They want that magic pill.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Just same thing with youth and beauty. Now you can buy youthfulness, but it is not going to come in a cream. It is not going to come in some type of magic, overnight thing. It is going to come with surgery and a very large bill.
Yeah, no, I'm ugly and I'll stay ugly.
You're not ugly.
I'm confident about it.
Oh my God. An invasion of privacy means when you are unauthorized to access somebody's information, but you do it anyway. Here's a wonderful example. There was a medical assistant in Miami who worked where one of the Kardashians went to the doctor. Now, that medical assistant was a front office, meaning it was her job to sit at the front, answer the phone calls, to do the callbacks, to schedule patients, and take copays. She had no whatsoever, whichever Kardashian came in, it was not her patient.
Mm-hmm.
She had no reason to be in that Kardashian's chart or account, but she did, and she took pictures because
Oh.
of the procedure before and after. Because a doctor takes photos a lot of times with surgical procedures, and so she sold those pictures, and that was an invasion of privacy. If you go digging through somebody's file, maybe like your ex-boyfriend starts dating a new girl, and you find out she's a patient of the doctor you work for, but she's never been one of your patients. But you look her up and start finding out, ooh, she's had this and she's had that. That's an invasion of privacy. You can't just go, just because they're at the office, they go to the office where you work. You can't go and look through people's charts and records and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You can't do that. And then I just gave that example. Okay, and then there's also another tort, and it's called unintentional tort. And this one is usually, I like to think of it's, you know how it says negligence right here?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of it as negligence or neglect. And unintentional tort occurs when you necessarily didn't set out to hurt someone, but somebody got hurt because you were not doing exactly as you had been taught, trained, or the standard of care. Here's an example. You know that when you have a baby under X amount of months old, you never leave them on the table alone, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, my rule when I teach pediatric is if you're not a hands with next to that child, you should get someone else in the room. So if you're having to grab things and the caregiver's not with you or somebody else is not right next to you, there has to be somebody within a hand's reach of that child. And unintentional tort would be as if you walked across the room, something, and the baby rolled off and got injured. That would be negligence, but you didn't purposely push the baby off. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. We this right here, this unintentional tort is the main factor when it comes to medical malpractices. And this is what makes this alone is what makes medical malpractices so incredibly difficult, because most doctors, um, like I give you examples because I think examples help give you a picture to
Yeah.
allow you to understand. So my dad had been ill, and they wanted to take a liver biopsy. So the doctor went in there, took a liver biopsy, and whether he knew he had nicked my dad's liver or he didn't, within several hours, my dad was in shock and had passed away from a bleed, from a nick the doctor had cut while doing the biopsy. And it was one of them things where that I went to an attorney, and the attorney, they looked into everything and that kind of stuff, and they're just like, as as much as we hate to tell you this, it falls under unintentional tort, but it was within the standards of this could have happened in an other situation. It wasn't in, even though it was unintentional, a regular doctor could have also made this type of mistake and not known, because with surgeries, there's a lot of unknowns, right? So it's very, very risky. Now here's a blatant example that would not fit. If it would not fall under unintentional, you are the doctor and you're set to amputate your diabetic patient's left foot, and you go in there and amputate the right foot. You're not getting out of that one, buddy.
That would be really.
That
I'm
happens.
sorry to say that word, but stupid.
That happens, I would say, probably every day or every other day somewhere in the world. Wow. I have heard of cases of somebody needing a gallbladder removal, and then I heard of somebody, instead of them removing the gallbladder, they removed the spleen. I have heard of, especially at the VA hospital, vets going in to have toes amputated, and the toes were amputated off the wrong foot, or a leg, or an arm, or this kind of stuff happens a lot more than what you would realize, and wow. It's crazy. This is another video, and it's talking about negligence, and I'm going to post it as well. And then, what is negligence in practice? Well, let's give you this, and this is what we're going to end with for the day. And I really want you to write this down and pay attention to this, because this is...
I think this is our survey question for tomorrow.
It is. This is the basis of
so
our
duty, direction of negligence, direct cause required.
This is the basis of how we have our medical assistant rules and regulations, and same for doctors and nurses and so forth. And we have our 4 Ds. We have a duty.
Yeah.
That is the duty of the physician to the patient, or the medical assistant to the patient, so forth, right? And then we have dereliction.
Or neglect of duty.
Or neglect of duty. This means, when you fail to act the same way as another MA, or another doctor, or another nurse would have done while treating the patient, okay? And that would be an example that I just previously used. You, the MA, walk across the room, the baby rolls, ends up cracking their head open in a coma, and maybe they pass away. That is definitely dereliction or neglect, and could result in legal and all kinds of things, because that is one of your Ds. Would a normal or prudently acting a medical assistant walk off and leave this child? No. And then here's the next one. Direct cause. Was what you did the direct cause of that patient being injured. So use the baby rolling off the table. You know babies roll, and you walked across the room or walked out of the room, the baby rolled off. Yes, your action of walking away was the direct cause of the baby. And then the last one, damages. So when you walked away, the baby rolled, fell and hit the floor. Its head, that damage was your fault. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all of those are very important that you understand.
Can you say again, please?
Yes, duty. So that means you are the MA. It is your duty to treat, to take their blood pressure, to monitor their pain levels, to see if they have a fever. It is in dereliction would be as if, or neglect would be, maybe that patient came in and you're supposed to always do a blood pressure. You didn't. And their blood pressure, come to find out, was, let me go back, 220 over 210. You didn't take a blood pressure. Would every other MA in this office have taken a blood pressure because the doctor tells them we take vitals on all of our patients? Yeah, then that was dereliction or neglect. So the direct cause is you didn't do the vital signs, right? And now the damage was the patient had a stroke there in the office. That was the damages. So this would be 4 Ds. Duty.
Dereliction of neglect.
Dereliction.
Direct cause and damages.
And damages. Okay?
Okay.
And all of those are, they're serious. They're ones that we have to think about when each patient that we come in contact with. And that's why I'm always mentioning that you know your office's policy, you know their rules. If their rules and their policy is every single diabetic patient has their blood sugar checked, and you didn't, that one patient, and maybe they were hypo and their sugar was 40 when they walked in, and now they're passed out in a coma on the floor, but because you checked on them like 20 minutes ago and the doctor's running behind, guess what? That's neglect. That's dereliction of your duty. And that could all come back on you. One of the things we will learn though is that a lot of times when the medical assistant or the nurse makes a mistake, the doctors end up paying for it. Now, you end up most likely losing your license, and that family can come after you for personal, what's it called? They can sue you for personal instead of, as a result, but on a personal level. So they can also sue the doctor's office themselves for hiring you and keeping you. So there's a lot of technicalities with it. We'll talk more about this. It's not going anywhere. And I hope everybody has a good day. If you have not done your SurveyMonkey, please do so. I tried not to assign too much, and let me double check this. Everything's loading kind of slow. You have the worksheet, and you have your chapter 3 comprehensive that we always do, comprehensive review and certification exam. You have those questions. So make sure you keep up with that work and see when it's due. I'm also going to post a few videos in the Teams. So I want you to, when you're finished and you've watched them, give them a thumbs up or something like that. Okay? All right. Besides that, anybody have any questions?
No, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Make sure you hang up for me, and I'll see you tomorrow. And by the way, guys, if you are sick and if you are feeling ill, if you have a fever, if you are in any way, shape, or form not feeling well, please stay home. Right now, we can't take chances. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too.